So you put an offer on a home and it was accepted. Congratulations! If you finished your inspections, you're probably ready to start celebrating, except for one thing. Your realtor wants to know if you want to do a reinspection. You have no idea what that means, and you're probably thinking, didn't I already pay for one of those? So why should I do it again? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Bethany, a 19-year veteran of the real estate industry here in Columbia, South Carolina. And today I'm explaining exactly what happens at reinspections and at walkthroughs to help you succeed in your own home buying journey. So let's get started first with a few assumptions. I am assuming that you know what your contract says about your right to inspect, your right to reinspect, and what requirements are on the seller to maintain the condition of the home until closing. If you do not know what your contract says about those things, I want you to go back and read your contract again. And also I'd like for you to talk to your agent as well as a real estate attorney to get clarification and understanding on what you and the seller have agreed to on those terms. So first, let's get into what a reinspection is. A reinspection is when you go back to the home that you're under contract to purchase and you bring your inspectors back to see if the seller has completed any repair items or replacement items that they have previously agreed to. When do you do a reinspection? Well, ideally you want to do a reinspection, I would say about a week before your scheduled closing. You need to make sure that all of the repairs or replacements have been completed by the seller before you schedule that to be done. But ideally, the reason you want to leave that 1 week cushion between your reinspection and your closing date is to prepare yourself in case anything is not completed or if it wasn't done properly. Then you and the seller still have a week to get things sorted out. The seller has the opportunity to bring their contractors or handymen back in to take care of those items. And it just gives you a sense of comfort that you're not having to rush to get things done. The seller doesn't have to rush to get things done. And you don't have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to close on the home because these items don't have time to be taken care of. Will it cost you money? Most likely, yes. There are some occasions where a home inspector already has the cost of a reinspection built into the upfront fee that they charge you. But in my experience here in Columbia, South Carolina, most home inspectors do not have that fee built in, and it is going to be a separate fee for every single inspector that comes back out to reinspect repair or replacement work on a home. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why would I do a reinspection? And really it's to protect yourself. It is really important to get copies of any invoices that are associated with the repair and replacement work that the seller is doing, but those really are not enough. Yes, it is one layer of protection so that you can feel confident closing on your home, but the ultimate test is going to be to verify that the repairs were done and done properly through a reinspection. So you're going to have the inspector come back in. They're looking to make sure that the repair work was done and that it was done in whatever fashion you clearly indicated that repair needed to be handled on your repair addendum. What if you were expecting a replacement of some item and instead of a replacement, just a repair or patch ended up happening? You may not necessarily know that through the invoices. You might only find that out through doing a reinspection. Something that is also important to know about reinspections is inevitably, almost always, 9 times out of 10, whether I'm representing a seller or a buyer in a transaction and it comes time to do that reinspection, there are going to be items that have not been taken care of. They either got overlooked by the contractor or there was some kind of miscommunication or miscoordination. The seller has already paid for that to be taken care of, and a reinspection gives not only you but the seller the opportunity to bring those contractors and handymen back out to make sure that they're getting what they pay for too, as are you. Now moving on to a final walkthrough. A final walkthrough is something that you do as the purchaser prior to closing on the home, and the purpose of the final walkthrough is to make sure that before you make that home yours legally and financially, that the home is in the condition that that it is supposed to be in. The seller is providing you, there's a changing of the hands of this home and it's in the condition it's supposed to be. A final walkthrough does not cost you money. That is something that you are going to do with your real estate agent representing you in the transaction. It is typically done either the morning of, day of closing, or the day before. What you need to look for in a walkthrough. The first most important thing is that the seller has in fact moved out and that they have removed all of their personal property and belongings from the home and the property. So you want to make sure that you're checking not just the home, but also checking the attic, checking the crawl space and any outside storage room or storage sheds that the home might have, and make sure that they have been cleaned out, because once you close on the home, anything that is left is going to become your responsibility to dispose of. You also want to make sure that now that they're moved out, that the home is clean as per whatever your contract requirements are. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, the cleanliness standard that we have in our sales contract is that a home should be in broom swept condition, free of personal belongings and free of any obvious debris. That is not a deep clean. So you need to go into your final walkthrough understanding what the expectations are on the seller contractually for how to deliver that home to you, what level of cleanliness is required, and also to just be prepared that you're going to want to make that even nicer for yourself. As much as we encourage our seller clients to leave and deliver the home to the buyer in the same condition that they themselves would want to receive it if they were the new owner moving in, it doesn't always happen that way. I'm very fortunate to have great clients. My seller clients always leave the home in immaculate condition for the new owners, but that is not what everyone does. So just be prepared. You're probably going to need to either clean yourself or bring your own cleaner in for a deep clean of the entire home after closing and prior to moving in. Now, for the rest of the things that you need to look for on your final walkthrough, you definitely need to make sure that the utilities are on. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, our contract states that utilities have to be left on by the seller until the day of closing, until closing occurs. So with the utilities being on, you're going to want to check the heat and the air. Make sure the heat works. Make sure the air conditioning works. You want to check the lights. Make sure that everything is turning on and off properly. Check the hot water heater. Do you have hot water? Is that working properly? Flush your toilets. Make sure that not only are the appliances still present in the home, but that they actually work and function the way that they're supposed to. Turn the washing machine on, turn the dryer on, open that refrigerator and the freezer, turn the oven on, turn the stove on, the microwave. Make sure those things work, but don't leave any water running on the home. So if you turn a water device on, please make sure you turn it off before you go. You don't want to close on the home and then come back after closing to some type of a flood situation. You also want to make sure that fixtures are present, that the blinds are still there, curtain rods are still there, that the light fixtures are still there, mirrors, doors, special landscaping in the yard. You want to make sure that nothing decided to kind of disappear, or the seller didn't have a last minute change of heart and decide to take a special light fixture with them and not tell you about it. And you also want to make sure that no damage has been done to the home while the seller was moving out of the property, whether it was by accident from the seller themselves or movers that they professionally hired to get them packed and moved out. So two big final questions that most home buyers have regarding reinspections and walkthroughs are, first, what happens when I find out that things are not done? And then, should I still close on the home if certain things aren't done? And that's really a twofold question. You have to take two things into consideration. First, you have to take the monetary and the time value of that situation. There are a lot of home buyers that might make a decision to still move forward with closing if we're talking about a repair under $500 that could easily be done by a handyman and they feel comfortable taking taking that on after closing, even though the seller was supposed to have done that. You might have others that maybe it is a $5,000 repair or replacement, and many buyers in the Columbia, South Carolina market specifically, they're not going to be okay closing on the home and taking care of that themselves, or hoping the seller will take care of it after closing just so that they can move in. So first you need to take the time and the monetary aspect of that into consideration. And the second thing that you need to take into account is, where does that fall on your principal level? Are you going to push that issue just because the seller agreed to do it, they agreed to pay for it, and take the time and effort to manage that to be done? Or do you really want to just go ahead, get closed and moved into your home? Maybe you personally are in a time crunch and the value is more in being able to physically have access to the home and move in, instead of delaying your closing, holding that over the homeowner's head, trying to get the seller to take care of it before you close. It really depends on your individual personality and your comfort level, and that is going to be a decision that you make based on how hard it's going to be to get that item fixed on your own and what that cost might be to you. You also need to remember, typically when you close on a home, whether it's here in Columbia, South Carolina, or somewhere else, you are generally saying, by that action of closing on the home, that you are willing to accept the home in the condition that you found it during your reinspection and your final walkthrough. If you weren't happy with it, you really shouldn't be closing on the home. It's not always convenient. It's not always easy. Yes, there could be a possibility that the seller may just absolutely not be willing to go back and do what they said they were going to do. And your deal could fall apart and you might have to start your home search all over from scratch. And that's where you really have to kind of quantify things and think about the time, the energy, the effort, and the dollar value that you're talking about. Are you willing to risk everything over $500, or are you willing to risk everything over a $5,000 repair or something in between? Generally, once you close on a home, if you are still expecting the seller to pay for and take the time to coordinate and handle a repair or replacement after closing, after they've gotten their profit, their proceeds from the sale, you probably have a pretty big uphill battle ahead of you. I don't recommend clients to close on something if repair work is not done, if they are not comfortable ultimately having to financially and from a time standpoint take care of that repair, that item, that task themselves. So now I want you to tell me two things in the comments. First, would you still close on a home if repairs haven't been done? And the second thing I want to know is, what is the dollar value that would be the deciding amount on if you close on a home or not? Thank you for listening. If this has been helpful, I hope that you'll hit subscribe and sign up for those notifications to get more homebuyer education and information about the Columbia, South Carolina real estate market. Check the description for more resources and more ways that I can help you on your home buying journey, even if you are not in Columbia, South Carolina.